Happy Wednesday. Got my coffee. It's iced again. I haven't converted to my winter coffee yet. Not actually hot, in fact it's cool, but kind of like an iced coffee. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. We have a full house today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Housekeeping things. Let's just kind of go through. If you're on your phone, turn it sideways. That way you get the bigger picture. If the comments are on the way, swipe it. You'll have silent mode. You'll be able to see and hear, but you won't have all the comments. You want them back? Swipe the opposite direction. If you're on your computer, you can go full screen. If you're on your TV, larger than life, whichever device, you know how it works. Getting rid of that. Joining us in the studio, we have teacher Michelle. She'll be watching Facebook and YouTube and voicing your comments and questions. We have creative director Ricky, who will be also watching YouTube and Facebook, verbalizing. So keep them busy, get your comments in there, get your questions, and then we have a live studio audience. So the house is full, which is really kind of eerie. I know, it's like, oh my gosh. So we have 7 extra people in here from class. This is the only time we're gonna do that because we've got too many other things going on. But I thought one time we'll just kind of squeeze it in and they can see how the live goes. So you guys are welcome to ask questions and do whatever. I end up talking to the camera, so I'm sort of ignoring you, but I do see you out of my peripheral, sort of, kind of. But definitely just go, ah! So anyway, they may have questions. Then virtually, we have Teacher Dove with us from Texas. Teacher Michael is with us from Florida. Susie is with us from Washington. And Caledonia, I don't know where you are, but I know you're here. So they're all on hand. And then David's with us from right here in Portland, Oregon. So yeah, a lot of us. So where are you from? Who are you? If you've got your tulip, put your icon in there, because I want to know what's going on. So go ahead and say, hi, I'm Leanne, I'm from Portland, here's my tulip. Get it in there. I'm going to gather flowers, but you get started. And that way, I don't want to block off the studio audience. I'm going to have to work a little different here today, but we can pull this off somehow or another. We'll do this. I pulled flowers that were really just the leftovers that we had from class. So we're going to be doing kind of an impromptu thing. It's going to be pretty dang casual, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. The plan is to do 3 arrangements, one from the first week of school, one from the second week of school, and one from the third week of school. If you're with us online, it's the first segment, the second segment, and the third segment, because the classes do match. It's kind of fun. We've been doing this now since 1969. Hard to believe, but yeah, 1969 is when Floral Institute started. And then I bought it in 1988, so I didn't have it in 69, but I bought it in 88. And then in 1996, David and I started online education. I know, 1996 there was no online. We did online education by VHS tapes, which I still
you found one! Oh my gosh!
I found it, and the thing that's even funnier is that I duplicated them myself. I mean, so David and I would stand in the studio and we would film, and then he would edit, and then he'd give me the blank, and I would duplicate and put them in the fancy little box. You can see our logo has changed. David designed this one, and then we evolved to that one, but still do something you love, still the tulips, and so 1996 by VHS tapes, just kind of amazing. Now we kind of evolved. We aren't doing VHS anymore, thank goodness. I'm not duplicating anymore. We've expanded greatly. The team is so much more than just David and I. You've seen on camera so many of them. You hear me say their names all the time. But we have expanded, we've grown, the classes are better, everything's better, oh my gosh. And now, with the team of instructors, Michelle Hedrick, AIFD, PFCI, FDI, has taken the role of lead instructor. And so she organizes everybody, keeps us on task, and keeps us moving forward. So Michelle, thank you.
You bet.
Going on her 9th year, heading to 10, and I'm looking for 20.
Oh, dear
I think
Lord.
that you're halfway. I don't know if I'll make it to 20, but we can dream. Anyway, so the first one I'm going to do is the very first arrangement you would do if you were in the classroom or online. It's the classic round. I chose to use the midnight foam because it's enhanced biodegradable. We still have the green, we do the midnight, we'll do foam alternatives, we'll do the floral netting, because I want you to see the evolution and be part of it, but this time I chose to do the midnight for the enhanced biodegradability. Railroad track taping, no extra water, because I knew I would do this and I didn't want to spill water all over. So as I get started, I've got tinted solid aster, spray roses, agonis, stock, and 2 carnations, because that's all that was left. But you know what, whatever. We're gonna go. So Michelle and Ricky, while I get started here, what's going on?
Well, we have a very good audience today, a very international audience today. Stateside and around the world, Texas, Washington, California, Oregon, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Africa, Illinois, Indiana, West Cork, Ireland, Wisconsin, Sweden, Alabama, Pennsylvania, Florida, Delaware, and then I lost track after that. But we have a lot of tulips with us today. Lots of tulips in Facebook and quite a few on YouTube. Andrea, Denise, Kathy, of course Jim and Scott are with us. There are stalwarts. Sherry, Debbie, Kim, Lisa, Candy, Dennis, who's joining us for advance, coming up in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, Dennis, you'll be here, what, October 7? Let us know when you're flying in, because that'll be fun. I only know Dennis virtually, so it's gonna be kind of fun to have you in real life.
Rose, down in California, Victoria, Harmony, and Robin. And I just scrolled past somebody who said they have all of their DVDs still. And I'm trying to find who that was. I think it's Candy. Candy said,
yes.
I still have all my DVDs.
Well, and Candy just rejoined us for Flower School because we've updated so much since then, and it's a different course. And so she's got her old DVDs, so she can see the old, and you can compare young Leanne to old Leanne. And then also the education, because, well, I think when we talked, we chatted about how when you had your DVDs, everything was cut underwater, use warm water, blah, 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 blah. And now we teach never cut underwater, always cut in the air, use cold water, hot for some things, but pretty much it's cold water and cutting in the air now. So it's amazing how the science of floral design has changed just in the few years, I say few years, that I've been doing this, but yeah, the science is way different. So you can see I've started with some Floral and now I'm adding in the solid aster. When I teach this in a classroom, oftentimes I start with flowers and don't put any foliage in, because then I can see if you screw up. This time I'm going ahead and doing it with the foliage. I don't know why, just because that's the way I started. I guess because I got myself confused, but it doesn't really matter. So that's my first question, tulips. Question for you. Do you prefer to green first or flower first? So you can just answer green, flower, whichever. Which way do you do it? Because both are correct. I'm waiting, get typing. And I think, while you guys are typing, I'm gonna grab Magnolia. The students got to use Magnolia this week, which I know those of you who have been in the classroom saying, we didn't get to use Magnolia. But it's because I was out foraging some olive so that Ricky could take a picture, and I found this most beautiful magnolia tree. And the building is vacant, and nobody was leasing it, and I thought, well, that's gonna be really overgrown. They need to have it pruned to stay in the proper position. So I was helping my neighbors, And is that not the most beautiful magnolia you've ever seen? It was just, oh. So yeah, they got magnolia on the first day of class. I can't promise that to any future students, so just don't get your hopes up. Not at all. Teacher Annie, who is our newest classroom teacher, taught this session. So she had a lot of fun going through. They used the pick machine. So this is repeat for all of you guys. Annie did hers green up. I always do it brown up. I mean, it's like, that's my favorite part, so why would I do green? So if you don't have a pick machine, yes, you could wire and tape it. You could use a wood pick. Yes, you have choices, but I have a pick machine, and I share my pick machine, so that's the way it goes. So do they green first or flower first?
Well, Facebook greens and YouTube flowers, but overall greening first is more popular, but there are a fair bit of people that do both. They toggle between a little bit of foliage and then some of their flowers and then back to their foliage.
I would have to go with that group because I'll be honest, I do whatever's in front of me first out of laziness, use up whatever's there, then go get whatever else I need. And or if I am doing production work for the holidays and I'm super busy, then I always pre-green and then come back and flower as the holiday gets closer because it's just more efficient that way. So it could be either or, but that's how I do it, yeah. And there's not a right or wrong to that, it's just the way it is. So any other questions going on out there?
Well, sort of. You mentioned Teacher Annie, who's our newest in-person teacher. But
And we're not gonna do any more yet.
Okay, sorry.
Gonna steal my thunder.
Oh, I was just teeing you up for it.
Teeing me up, okay. So one thing you'll find if you're studying online is that you're going to have trouble sometimes finding the materials we have. That's the benefit of coming in the classroom, is we do the work of hunting for things and figuring it out. If you're at home, I give you a list, and you just gotta make it work, which is a little trickier. But the way we rewrote the program and updated it is it's flexible to where you can adjust seasonally or price or favorites. So if I demoed with Magnolia, Floral, and Solid Aster, but you like chrysanthemums, ruscus, and misty, go for it. You don't have to switch out. You can do whichever material you like to work with. You can see how I've created a nest now to support my flowers. So then I can start sticking in flowers. I've got to make sure I break the line on my container. I know that I need to finish covering my mechanics, but I'm going to start flowering a little bit here.
While you do that, there was a question that came in on Messenger about when you were talking about substituting flowers, the cost of the flowers. Do they have to spend a specific amount on each arrangement, or can they change up the flower choices that they have as well?
You can adjust that just how you want. There's not a budget that you have to use. There's not a set flower you have to use. And in fact, depending on your situation, like here in Oregon, our weather is so mild. We're so lucky. And so many times just even the weeds alongside the road or the magnolia is free. And so you can go ahead and save money by using what you can forage, and that's totally fine. If you're a gardener, you can grow things to use. If your neighbors have a garden, you could ask them before you harvest. The farmer's market, the grocery stores are all good sources. And then, of course, your local florist, sometimes they will support you and be thrilled for you and offer to help. Other times they are threatened by you and they're scared of you and they go, oh, no, 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 no. So it's just worth asking. The worst thing they can do is say, no, we won't sell you flowers or give you flowers or let you work with our flowers. And if they say that, say, okay, fine, I didn't want yours anyway, and just move on down the road. But it doesn't hurt to ask, you know, because you want to do it for the least amount of money you can so that you can buy more flowers, because more is always a very good thing. So adding in these spray roses, which are huge, they're almost like a sweetheart rose. I was so surprised. I loved them. To be honest, that was the first thing I bought when I was buying for this particular arrangement, is I saw these and I thought, well, that's what I want. Actually, no, this wasn't for this one. This was for the symmetrical. But when I was buying for that particular arrangement, I found these. I was like, okay, well, that's what I want. And then I built from there around that. And that's what you can do as a student when you go shopping. And you guys will get this, like week 3, we set up the tables for shopping and just put buckets, and you have to choose your own materials rather than us saying, okay, you're going to copy this, because if you never start choosing, you just get overwhelmed, and it's like, where do I even begin? And so in the online, you've got to begin there from step 1, so it's a little bit trickier. But what we do is you have your color wheel, and we talk about how do you choose and then how do you do substitutions. So for this one, I picked the flower I knew I wanted, which was that yellow spray rose. And then I go, okay, what color harmony will work with that? Which I could stay monochromatic and do tints, tones, or shades of yellow. Or I could go into the analogous and take it over to the oranges and such, which is what I've done here with the going over to the bronze and copper. So leading it to analogous. So then when you go shopping, you stick with that palette and it just works better. Then you think about the flower shape, which I think this is on your quiz or your test at some point, so take note. There are 4 shapes. Okay, let's have this tulips do this first before I give the answer. Just make sure I come back to it. So tulips, what are the 4 shapes or types of flowers that you would incorporate in an arrangement? And I will tell you, in Leanne's humble opinion, which is the only right opinion, period, that you should have at least 3 of the 4 to make it more interesting. Because if you just do 1, it gets kind of boring. And even just 2 is just kind of boring. Think about a dozen red roses and baby's breath. The most classic design ever. Boring. And so by changing it up, it just makes it more interesting. So normally, I wouldn't do a linear item in a round arrangement at the beginning because it's a little trickier. You're doing a different form of flower in the design. And I actually threw this class under the bus with some grasses that were linear for their round arrangement, which made it trickier, quite a bit trickier. But they did great. And so doesn't mean you can't do linear in a round. It just means it's a little more complicated to do linear in a round. So did anybody get the 4 forms?
Yeah, Candy jumped in right away and Sherry was right after her with line, mass, form, and filler.
Excellent. So line, mass, form, filler. If you didn't do those 4, you're wrong. But if you did it, you're right. Good for you. Notice my turntable. Thank you, Kim. I love this. And adding a little more here. And I can tell you, if you're online or in person, that question is on your test. And so now you know the answer. Line, form, mass, and filler. This one's a little bit too long. Just notice how it's sticking out. It's screwing up my form. So I'm going to take him out, give him a new cut, and put it back in. And that way it fits a little better. Then I have my 2 carnations.
I just love how we have students and tulips and followers from all over the country. We have a couple more people that popped in on YouTube. Carol's in Trinidad, I think on vacation at the moment. And Fernando is logging in from Lisbon and says good night.
I know, it is so, I mean, I feel so, this is just not going in there at all. What am I doing? It's such a privilege to enter your homes, cars, businesses, wherever you happen to be watching. Thank you for joining us. And I know some of you are watching me from bed. I love it when I hear from people say, oh yeah, I go to bed with you every Wednesday. I'm like, hey, how interesting. But it's 11 o'clock at night or 1 in the morning. And so I know that your loved ones are sitting there going, oh, you're watching Leanne again. How nice. I thought you were coming to bed with me. But what an honor. Shout out, I'm not sure if she's on or no. Oh, did you just hear that? Bad Leanne. Oh, yes, right. Ricky's even shaking her finger at me. You never slam your knife down. But anyway, so a shout out to Liz, if you are watching. Hi. It was fun to meet you in real life. Liz was at the beach that I was at 2 weeks ago, I think, and I had gone in to have happy hour with some friends of ours, and there she was sitting at the table next to us. It was so fun to run into a tulip in the real world when we're best friends in the virtual world. So hello, Liz. I hope you two had a wonderful time at the coast. The weather was perfect. It was hard to come home. It was really hard to come home. But school was starting, so that made it worthwhile to come home because this is where I'm supposed to be. But, oh, it was lovely. Yes, Teacher Michelle, what do you have there?
Well, we were talking about the forms or types of flowers, and Scott had a good question. How do we categorize foliage?
Exactly the same, Scott. And that's a great question. So Scott asked, how do you categorize foliage? Foliage comes in linear, mass, form. I would call things like pittosporum, salal, mass. Leatherfern could also end up being a mass because of the way we use it. Then when it comes to interesting things like grasses, and depending on how you classify things, but then I've got linear. When it comes to the magnolia, I probably list it as form because it's such a unique big leaf. And then when it comes to the agonis that I just started using, I would call it a filler, the way it just kind of fluffs in there. And then linear could be your myrtle, your lilygrass, eucalyptus could be filler or linear. I don't think there would be a form. Well, this silver dollar eucalyptus could almost become a form. So, you know, there's a gray area here. It's a creative process, so there's going to be different interpretations, and so I might even equate it to the definition, line, form, mass, or filler might change based on the usage of it. Because I think you guys use this in the Western line, and you used it as a linear item, didn't you? Yeah. So they didn't use it as a filler item like I'm doing it here. They used it as a linear item, so then you would classify it as such. So good question. You know, and I love it when you guys ask me questions that make me stop and think, because I learn from you, because I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder why. Don't know. So anyway, that's my story. I'm going to stick with it. Okay, I am going to stop on this one because I spent a long time on the first one and I've got 2 more arrangements to make. So this would be a classic round, which you would do the very first arrangement, whether it's in the classroom or online. We go into far more detail as to why and how and what, but you know what, we don't do that on the live. On the live, we just make pretty and talk to you. So that's where we are. Setting that aside.
Fernando wondered, aspidistra, where would you put it? Would that be line or mass? Kind of depends on how you use it, I guess.
Yeah, because I think if I used it as the full, in fact, I think it's tomorrow afternoon is it tomorrow afternoon I teach the Vespo in class?
Yes, I believe
So
so.
tomorrow, I'm doing the Vespo with you all. It's a compote. Yeah, it's a compote, because some of the what am I doing? With floral netting, and we'll be using the aspidistra, and we'll be using it as a line material. And so generally I classify as a line, but I know you all have seen me when I knot it or staple it or tie it, and then obviously it's become a form as opposed to a line. So it goes back to interpretation and usage as to which way. Okay, so in the second set of classes, there would be week 2, we get more specialized, and it goes into wedding, sympathy, all your rose stuff. And I'm finding many of our graduates, what was I supposed to use here? What was I thinking? Oh yeah, this. I sort of recipeed this in my mind, and then I forget what it was I was doing. I'm usually better to just not, but I sort of did. Some beautiful hydrangea, local grown. So that's quite lovely. And then some red roses. They're left over from a long time ago. I don't know, they were in the cooler, so if they start to fall apart, it's because they are old. But you know what? They're gonna be beautiful. And when you're doing wedding or event work, you want them to be open, but not falling apart.
We push them just a little past their bloom point.
Yeah, just a tiny bit, but you know what? It'll be fine. Anyway, I was saying that many of our students come with the career goal of focusing on events, weddings, parties, that type of thing. And oftentimes going into freelance work so that you keep your day job or keep the rest of your life of whatever it is that's keeping you busy, but then fill in off times for the events and such. It's interesting, nursing profession oftentimes is a 3-day on or a 4-day on as opposed to 5. And so especially once the nurses have seniority so that they can specify, a lot of them start wedding businesses because they can work the front part of the week, make money, keep their benefit package, and then do events the second part of the week, which is kind of cool. And I know a lot of our online students, they are definitely trying to merge their career focus and career plan to their reality of making a living. And so the flexibility of the online course allows that. It takes a lot longer. When you come to the classroom, you can do it in 3 weeks and you're done. You're like, oh, yeah, that was fun, got it. Online, it might take you 3 to 6 months, but if that's the only way to do it, that is nice. We've got some very, very, very experienced online teachers. Teacher Dove has been in the industry as long as I have and worked in stores, worked independently, freelance. He's an AIFD designer, he's a certified evaluator judge, and he's amazing. And so when he looks at your submissions, because when you do an online course, you create your arrangement and then take a picture of it, and you send us the photograph, and then the teacher does the full evaluation based on your photography. And they'll give you tips to get it better so they can see, and they'll tell you exactly what they need, like I have to have it top down, I need to see the back, I need to see the front, blah, blah, blah. So Teacher Dove has been doing that with us since last spring, And many of you probably saw him on the live stream last spring when he joined us in the studio. He came in from Texas to teach a class with us and then did a live stream as well. But now we're excited to announce, drum roll, we're adding another remote online teacher, and Michael started with us just last week. So Ricky, do you have Michael's picture? Can you put it up there? So this is introducing Michael. Michael Smith lives in Florida. He's AIFD, PFCI, AAF, FDI, and Texas TMFD, I don't know, Texas Master Floral Designer, is that what Texas is? Anyway, he's also the Florida Master Floral Designer, so
FSMD, Florida State Master Designer.
There we go, okay.
Yeah. So many letters.
There's too many letters, this is just like crazy. Anyway, Michael is actually a graduate of our program. He came through the basic and the advanced well after he was a florist. He had been a shop owner, florist, all of this. He had already done very well in the industry, but wanted to expand his education, get his certification. And so he joined us for studies prior to taking the AIFD testing so that he could expand his skills, up his game, took our basic, took our advanced, and then tested with AIFD and passed, and then competed in the Sylvia Cup, not this year but the year before, and took first place. And anyway, he's just an amazing, fabulous designer. So is it back to me now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. He's an amazing, fabulous designer. So I reached out to him. I saw him in July, I guess, and kind of threw it out. Would you be interested? And he said yes. So then I met with him in August. We were together, David and I both went back to Florida twice this year, like, oh my goodness. So I met with him in August and we got him set up, and Thursday he joined us. So if you submit your lessons, sometimes you'll have teacher Dub, sometimes you'll have teacher Michael, sometimes you'll have me, sometimes you'll have teacher Michelle, but you'll get a variety of different opinions because it's an art form, which is why in the classroom we've got so many different teachers, so that, you know, sometimes you'll say, oh, I don't like the way they do that. That's ugly, that's wrong. And we'll say, it's different, it's a way. But then you get a different teacher and go, oh, okay, now. So every teacher does things a little differently, and I didn't take the thorns off of that. That was, oh my gosh. You don't do that when you're making a wedding bouquet. You're supposed to stop and take the thorns off first, and I forgot to do that. But you know what? I'm just going to pretend that I'm the bride, and I will have tough hands, and it'll be okay. Oops. So, hydrangeas for my base, roses, some orangium. I can give it a tug, get a little bit of softness, let the petals fall. I could be my own flower girl. And add another hydrangea in there, I think. I feel like I got too big of a hole right there. There we go. And then turning it. I'm doing kind of a hybrid of the spiral and the weave, kind of combining them as opposed to doing just one or the other. Again, I don't know why, mostly because I'm live and I'm just trying to get it done. A little bit of seeded eucalyptus.
That is gorgeous on camera.
That is, okay?
Yeah, looks
Okay.
great.
Make it over here where you all can see it. There we go. Yes, teacher Michelle.
So one of our graduates, Karen, has 2 questions, not related.
One at a time.
Okay, so the first one is, do you remove all the leaves when you use Veronica?
Veronica, okay. I do remove most of the leaves. I feel like Veronica is a super thirsty flower, and if you leave the leaves all on, it sucks up that moisture that would go up the stem, and then the stem kind of goes like that faster than it should. So I do remove the leaves. Okay, next one.
Second question was, does quick dip hurt any flowers? And if not, why don't we just use it on everything?
I do use it on everything. If I'm doing fancy cleaning that I want to make sure it's going to hold well, I quick dip it. I don't know of anything that it hurts. So yeah, I would just go ahead and use it, definitely. So before I tie this off, let's just do a full tulip shout out and welcome to Michael, because it's his first day that he's official and that people know he is joining us. So welcome to the tulip team, Michael, and I'm looking forward to working with you over the next many years. So shout out to Michael. I'm going to collar this with a little bit of aspidistra because I need to cover up my mechanics. So I'm just going to tuck it in a little bit like so. And then I'll tie it off with bind wire. Now, tomorrow I'll be fluffing all of these to make them look better than they do when they're on live because I'm designing nervously. But we'll get them fluffed up and beautyless. And then Ricky will take professional photos of them. We'll get them posted in the Tulip Bunch tomorrow afternoon. And then throughout the weekend, get them out onto all the social media so that we've got that. So tying it off, I've started doing bind wire more than anything else lately. It could be raffia, which is what I used to use all the time. It just is what works for you. What's your favorite? Doesn't really matter, just matter of picking it and doing it. I go around 2 or 3 times, maybe 4, doesn't really matter. Give it a twist.
Martha says that you need to take a picture of that bouquet with what you're wearing today because it matches your dress almost perfectly.
I dressed for this. Actually, no, but thank you, Martha. You're correct. I do match it perfectly. How fun is that? You know, this. I bought this dress. We can't really. Well, I'll pull it up so you can see. It has tulips on it. How cool is that? And it's a local dressmaker here that used to have a store right around the corner from us, and now she moved clear to the other side of the river, so I hardly see her anymore. But anyway, I thought, oh my gosh, it's a local woman who I liked next door, and tulips, so I had to buy it. You know how it is.
Dennis responded he flies in on October 5th, which is the Saturday before advance starts.
Perfect, so I'll give you time to get settled and get situated, and then we will see you Monday morning. Class starts at 8:30, door at 8:15, you know the drill, all that stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside, moving on, because I gotta get another arrangement done, and I better drink some water, I can tell.
So another question on Messenger is how many students can we accommodate in the classroom since we have a live audience today?
We will take up to 12. We were at 9 for the longest time. Well, actually, we were at 12 for 100 years, and then COVID hit, and then they went to 6, then they went to 9, and they've just authorized to 12, but we won't go more than that. 12 is a magic number for our space. That's what works. More than that, you feel a little cramped. Ricky?
Yeah, so Tammy over on YouTube has a question. First off, she's saving up to take the online classes next year, but she's wondering, do some of our students take the classes just for themselves, or do they all take it to build a business?
You know, we have hobby, we have people looking to work for someone else, we have people who want to open their own business at home, open a store. It's really across the board. And the new category that has started probably in the last 2 to 3 years, maybe 4, that is starting to be really strong is the flower farmer florist. Because I can honestly say for years and years we might get 1 farmer a year, and now it seems like there's a farmer all the time. And so that's a huge growth area in our world. But it makes sense because think about how the world as a whole has gone back into gardening and growing vegetables, growing flowers, even sewing their own clothes, knitting, all that stuff. that maker generation, where everybody's wanting it to do tangible, it's affecting the floral world too. So yes, you can do it as a hobby. A lot of people do it just for personal enrichment, to add to their skill set, to give them one more thing to fill out their world. Okay. So in the third week or third segment, when we get into more contemporary design, things that are a little edgier, I think I would classify the first segment of classes, be it online or the first week of the program, as classic design, the things you do day in and day out in a flower shop, the bread and butter of our world. And then the second segment would be specialty with sympathy and wedding. And then the third, going into the contemporary, which is going to be too edgy for some places. If you're in a very, very rural farm community, they might go, oh, that's just a little too weird for me. And then if you're in the city, you're like, oh, cool, that's what I'm gonna do. But in school, I want you to be able to do all of it. So in the third segment, I'm going to grab, I took apart Annie's arrangement. I took apart some of the arrangements because I thought, well, I just need some Leatrice. So
That's where our Leatrice went, out of the arrangement out there.
It was mine.
That's all right, it's good.
And then the iris, I don't remember what these were from, but they were left over from something. I think that was from last week's class, something, but anyway, the third segment, we start working with more contemporary lines, more diverse flowers. So I took the orange design dish, I filled it with the midnight foam, but notice it's well below the edge of the container. I didn't come up because I don't want to have side insertion. I'm going to keep everything vertical, so it changes the whole format of the design. So if I put in the iris from one side, let's see, where do I want to go? There we go. I'm putting it in a little bit angled. Am I too tall, Ricky, if I go here?
You're just barely under the top of it.
Okay, I'll bring it down. Am I better now?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
See, not only do I have to design backwards, but I have to design to the camera height, because I promised Ricky I wasn't going real tall, so she came in so that you could see better, and so then I turn around and go tall. Not good. But that's just the way I float. So the benefit of the fact that you can do this as personal enrichment or career is that it's flexible enough that you can adjust it based on what you want. So it makes it quite easy. And if you're studying online, it's open 24/7. So if you need to study at night, because that's your only moment that's for yourself, you can. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. And then the online teachers just pop in, you submit it into your student dashboard, and then they pop in and give you a full evaluation, and then it populates into your dashboard, and you can go back and look at it at your leisure. So you don't have to worry about matching our schedule. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You can do it on your schedule, your timeline, making yourself a new career, a new everything, with the flexibility of doing it from wherever. I have to laugh because sometimes I'll get notes from students that, oh yeah, I'm waiting for the bus with my kids, so I'm sitting here studying on my phone, but I didn't catch this part, can you tell me? Because you can always reach out to us and say, hey, I'm having troubles with this, that, or the other thing. So if you're in the carpool line picking up kids at school, watching your lesson, and you find a question, pick up the phone and call. And we'll get back to you and say, oh yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. May as well save the long ones, because I guess I don't really need those, and I might use these shorter ones. So what I've done is create 2 lines rather than one in the center, and framing what's going to be my focal emphasis area, which will stay down here, and got choices. I also pulled out of the arrangement.
That's where those went.
Yep. Leanne was scavenging.
You're foraging in the classroom.
I was foraging in the classroom, and I thought, oh, these are so beautiful. So I'm going to turn it around and face me for just a second so I can make a decision. You're looking at the front. Now I'll let you see the back, but I have to make a decision here. I don't like this one, so I'm going to turn that. Okay. And which way do I want to go? Okay. Decision made. So I'm going to stick the dahlias in the front, and I'm using them to a binding point here. Okay? So my binding point is on this side, and then I'm going to use orange roses to a binding point over here. Oh no, 2 binding points. Oh, screwing up everything. Yeah, you can have 2 binding points. Okay, Ricky.
So I got a couple questions for you. First one is from Brooke, and she's wondering if there's a reason why you didn't bring the Leatris up as high as you did the iris.
I thought about it. Let's vote. Okay. What do you think? I was thinking having it just kind of be almost asymmetrical, but, okay, I'll put this in here for a moment so you can see. Well, I don't want to chop it in there. Okay, I'll put it like that. So, do you want tall and tall, or do you want to keep it asymmetrical? The vote is on. I'll keep working on my basing.
And then the other question was, I forgot who asked it, but they were wondering what the significance of the tulip is as our logo.
You know, and David, can you answer that? You can maybe type it in there, because I don't know why for sure we did the tulip, except that I do remember that David wanted to do an apple, because apples for a school, and I was like, no, we are not doing an apple, we are a flower. I mean, like, oh my gosh. And so then we were going back and forth, and he was like, oh, it's gotta be. And I'm like, no, it can't be an apple. And so then we were talking about doing a rose, and I mean, everybody does a rose. I'm like, I can't do a rose. And so I said, how about a tulip? And then, this is gonna sound silly, but it's easy, and I don't know if I have it here. Yes, I do. Oops, knocking over something. Oh well. Go back on there. Teacher Michelle made this for us. It's a stencil, but tulips are easy to draw. It's not a silly little reason, but tulips are easy to draw. And so I know that we went from apple to rose to tulip. And then it just seemed like the perfect thing. And then it was Lori who came up with the name Tulip Bunch, because I was calling it Tulip People. And she's like, that really sounds stupid. And I'm like, you're probably right. And so Lori named us the Tulip Bunch, and I thought that really actually makes sense, because you buy tulips by the bunch. And so the Tulip Bunch became the name of all of our people. And that's one thing I'll add in before I finish my design here. The Tulip Bunch has become an amazing resource for students. And so if you are a student, and this goes for you guys too, the Facebook group it's a private group called the Tulip Bunch, and just ask to be a member, and then we can put you in. And it has proven to be an amazing tool for connection, employment opportunity, support, individual critiques. It's just a hugely valuable process that to be honest, I didn't realize how important that was going to become to the entire Floral Design Institute world, and it has sort of taken on a life of its own. I have to say a huge thank you to Jim, because he's our resident
Encyclopedia.
I mean, research expert. I mean, anytime there's something that we need a little more information on, Jim, you take the time to figure it out and then share that information out with everybody. And you have been just amazing. So thank you. I need to make you an honorary administrator or whatever. No, I think I can make you a group expert. Maybe that's what I gotta do. Okay, Michelle, put that on my to-do list. I think there is something called group experts. And Jim has been just invaluable. Rick too, because he brings years and years and years of design experience to the world. In fact, he's in South Dakota today doing a but a stage presentation, or maybe it was yesterday. Sometime this week, Rick is in South Dakota doing a presentation, and so that's pretty exciting. Am I supposed to go taller or keep it the same?
Everyone has voted asymmetrical on YouTube.
Yep, and hands down, everyone is asymmetrical on Facebook as well, so.
Then we're leaving it as is. So one of the biggest problems that online students share with me is foliage. And in the classroom, it's a luxury because I love foliage, and so we have tons of different kinds, and whoa, okay, I'll just hold it up there. We have so many different types of foliage, and you sort of get spoiled, I'll be honest. When you get your first job, most do not have that. I don't know why, because it costs the same if you buy bunches of different as it does to do a lot of the same. Well, not really, but if you're gonna buy 10 bunches, you might as well buy 10 different things and have variety. So for online students, what I tell you is go out and forage, see what's in your yard. You don't have to have leather fern, you can do. Then my students from Arizona just explained to me that no, you don't go forage for cactus. So I'm like, okay, you're right. So then I say, go to Home Depot or the grocery store or the garden center and buy plants. So like this snake plant has not been behaving, it's just been leaning all over, and I thought, well, fine, then I'm going to take care of you. And so the poor little snake plant, Sansevieria, gets chopped up. And that's something you can do as a student, is go ahead and just chop on things. It doesn't matter. And then plant it and let it grow and chop again. So you may have to do some creative work like that, because that's the one thing I find students online struggle with, is the foliage. That's the hardest thing. So don't hesitate to chop up plants. So I'm going to add this. I think I'm going to do it short. I know, and then you're going to say, why didn't you go tall? Because I want to do it short.
Leanne, you were talking about all the different kinds of foliages and so forth. We kind of reviewed flowers and foliage in class today, and this is day 3, and we had already worked with over 20 different flowers and foliages.
What?
Yeah.
That seems wrong. Did Leanne miss by?
I don't know, but which is good because we touch a lot of different things in the classroom, and we encourage the students to do the same out in the virtual world too.
Wow. So day 3, 20 different varieties. That is fascinating. If you had asked me, I would not have said that. I would have picked a much lower number. Fascinating. Well, that's cool. And I know tomorrow, I'm actually very excited. I don't know if you picked Michelle or not, but tomorrow when I picked for the compote, I found these cool roses. Again, I don't know why roses were just talking to me. And like the yellow ones just grabbed me, and then for the purple, the dahlias was my thing. But I found these neutral. They're Sahara. So those of you that are professional working out there already might be familiar with Sahara. But it's one of the neutral roses that's so on trend right now. So the compote is actually going to have a lot of that neutral palette. And you could say, well, it's all white, but it's more complex than that. It is white. It's white hydrangeas and white dahlias and white xeranthemum. I had to ask Annie, what is this flower? I don't even know what it is. And she did know, so it was xeranthemum. But my all white is much more complex than that, and it's going to be beautiful in our copper compote. I might have to go steal some more magnolia, but that'll be another issue, but we'll deal with that later. But it's all going to come together. So what I'm doing now is just covering my mechanics and basing with status to make sure that my foam is concealed. And then I'm going to turn it back around so you get the front. And the only reason that we know it's the front is that this dahlia came out. So it created movement. Teacher Michelle.
So David added some more info to the question about why do we have a tulip.
Thanks, David. I'm glad you were paying attention.
He was. He chimed right in. He said the apple was already taken by a larger company. And the tulip is not only simple and beautiful, but it conforms to the Fibonacci scale.
That's right, because we did the Fibonacci. And then the other thing that made us very excited about the tulip is that tulips keep growing. And that's something with all of us, the Tulip Bunch. We just keep growing. We don't stop. We're always evolving. 2 more teachers that will be joining us for the advanced class. They're not working in the basic course this session because they make their living doing weddings and they're just crazy busy right now. But they'll both be back starting October. Our teacher Anna and teacher Jerry. You've seen Jerry on live before. She probably has done 80 weddings this summer, 75, we'll have to ask her. But that's how crazy busy she is. And then Anna doesn't do as many weddings, but her claim to fame is her installations. I can remember one that she did where it was like a 40-foot serpentine that hung from the ceiling. And she was out twisting rebar around these huge rolls of hay bales. I'm like, what are you doing? And then her father welded it and they suspended it. Anyway, so she'll be here for the advanced class. So the Tulip team has grown. The classes have gotten infinitely better. The online gives you the flexibility to do it around your schedule, your life, your timeline, and you still have access to everybody. And then the Tulip Bunch is the group that supports each other so that we're all here to help you figure out what you're going to do as you do something you love. Now, this one, I got to find something to put in the middle. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm going to be out of time, so I'm going to do that later. So when you see this tomorrow in the professional photo, you'll be able to say, oh, Leanne added blah, blah, blah. And Leanne will figure out what that is at some point. But it is coming. So now, my request to you, time for you to work. If you have not done so already, would you please share this out, spread the word, let people know that we exist. Congratulate Michael. Welcome Doug and welcome Annie, because we didn't do a formal announcement like that with them. We just put them online and put them to work. But congratulate them, and then reach out to each other, and then get out there and go do something you love. See y'all next week. Bye for now.